they say. They're leaving home every day, and they're beating a hot old dusty trail to the California line. Across the desert sands they roll, they're getting out of the old dust bowl. They think they're going to the Sugar Bowl, but this is what they find. Police at the port of entry say your number 14,000 for today. And if you ain't got the do-re-mi, boy, you ain't got the do-re-mi, well, you better go back to your beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee, California. It's a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or to see. But believe it or not, you won't find it so hot if you ain't got the do-re-mi.
Tonight, my special guest in the studio is Darryl Holter. He is a singer, songwriter, and guitar player whose musical background extends from country music to folk and rock. In addition to releasing CDs like his recent Crooked Hearts, Darryl has been working on a project called Radio Songs, Woody Guthrie in Los Angeles, 1937 to 1941. Thanks so much for coming into the studio, Darryl.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Carolyn.
Great to have you here. Most of the time, when we think of Woody Guthrie, we think about This Land Is Your Land, the Dust Bowl, labor movement, but not so much Los Angeles. Darryl, why did you focus on his radio work in Los Angeles?
Well, you're really right, and that is why I did. What happened, I mean, I found it really interesting that people knew a lot about Guthrie as the person who rode the rails during the Dust Bowl, or the radical who was uncompromising, the leader of the folk music, the mentor for Bob Dylan, Phil Oakes, and many other people. But I wondered, how did he get there, and where did he come from, and what was the whole story? And I found that his years in Los Angeles from 1937 to 1940 and 41 were very significant in his own development. It's really great to see everybody here. We're down here at Woody Guthrie Square, and you may notice that you can see the sign up there underneath 4th Street. Woody Guthrie Square, Woodrow Wilson Guthrie. Woody Guthrie came here into LA in the spring of 1937. He had no money. He hitchhiked in, and Guthrie sometimes stayed here overnight in flop houses. And he also played on street corners for tips and for drinks. He probably played on this very corner. He was able to get on a radio show on a radio station where he did live songs. The radio show was really important to Guthrie because it not only gave him exposure to a lot of people who were listening, but it also gave him $20 a week, which during the Depression years was pretty significant. His cousin Jack Guthrie, he was able to convince Frank Burke to give them a 15-minute show. And that radio show became very popular, particularly with all the population of people that came from the Dust Bowl states. The states like Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, places that were where the Dust Bowl rolled through and basically made it impossible for anybody to live. Large numbers of these people came to Los Angeles. Now, when they first came, when hundreds and thousands of them started coming to LA, they weren't all that popular with some of the people because a lot of them didn't have jobs. They were trying to find jobs. They were poor. They were trying to build a new life. Big City Ways is a song that was discovered about 10 years ago by a friend of mine, Peter La Chapelle, who's now a history professor in Nevada. And Peter found this song along with three others as old amateur recordings that he found in an obscure library in South Los Angeles. Big City Ways is a song that talks about a guy named Brother John who came to town, and it really is a story about how the people that came from Oklahoma and Texas and the Dust Bowl areas, how they encountered difficulties in the city, things they had never seen before. A lot of them had problems with alcoholism because it was so easy to get drinks here, and they were from areas that were dry. A lot of them got involved in taking out a mortgage to buy a car and not being able to make the payments and then losing the car, or the same with their furniture. A lot of them got into relationships with people that exploited them. And so the song Big City Ways talks about a lot of those issues and is a kind of a warning to the people from the Dust Bowl about what they would be encountering in the big city, and that they had to be careful of the big city ways, the kind of corrupt big city ways that could really harm you.
Got his car and the finance man his furniture. Law, getting that big city wage. The landlord gave him so much grief, he got his family on relief. Law, getting that big city wage. Got him a job on the WPA, woke up to eat about twice a day. And Lord, getting that big city wage. His youngest son got an uptown honey, but now he's paying alimony. The sister, she got a gigolo, but the shotgun was in the pawn shop though. Lord, getting that big city wage. Here we go. If you're an Eastern refugee, well, here's some good advice that's free. Don't go getting that big city wage. Those jelly beans, the Sheba queens, they'll trim you quicker than a mowing machine. If you go getting them big city wage, so don't go getting them city ways, big city ways, big city ways.
A lot of the things that we have now that are part of our sort of patchwork welfare system came from the New Deal. And while there were a lot of great achievements in the New Deal, there were also a lot of people who were hoping that it would even go further. And I think that's a little bit about what Guthrie talks about in his He's writing in the late 1930s, the New Deal is still in place, but it seems like Guthrie would like to see it gather even more momentum. This is a politically interesting song as well, because you have Guthrie, who is a real populist, at this time sort of like a populist Democrat, but he's also has his criticisms of the Democrats, and they're beginning to crystallize in his thought, and you see a little bit about this in the song. The bridge mentions every time the cards were dealt, they bluffed Mr. Roosevelt, and that Randolph Hearst filled up his purse, but for the working folks, things got worse. And what Guthrie was saying there was that despite the good things about the New Deal and the good things about Governor Olson and FDR, they still really, in his mind, weren't going far enough to solve some of the issues and the problems that they had.
Colbert Olson drew some cars, but the big land companies cleared the board. I'm looking for the New Deal now. Mr. Olson, I expect we'll have to call for a brand new deck. I'm looking for a New Deal now.
Preference about where you want to sit?
No preference.
Wow, it's a heavy choice. You know, you have to really think this through.
What are you feeling?
You? Me?
I like it. I'm in.
Hey, that was easier than
I'm
I
in.
thought.
Yeah,
I thought that
I'm
was-
in.
I literally thought that was going to take like half the day.
I'm in.
I Ain't Got No Home is another somewhat well-known song by Woody Guthrie, one that's been recorded by a few people, including Bruce Springsteen and Billy Bragg. I Ain't Got No Home is an interesting song, and it's a genre of songs that Guthrie did quite a bit of. It's what we might call an answer song. It's a song that answers another song. It's a song that is written in reaction to another song. The other song in this case was a song that was called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. And that song was popular, I guess, in the early 30s, and it was played on a lot of the radio stations, and a lot of people were familiar with the song. And the idea behind the song was that the world is so sinful, and I don't want to be sinful, and I don't feel at home in all this sin and all these kinds of issues. But I will be happy in heaven, and I won't have to worry about these kinds of things. Guthrie's idea was more that, look, there's something wrong here. What can we do to fix it? Or what can we do to make life here better? I mean, do we just have to wait until we die? In answer to the song, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, Guthrie wrote another one saying, I ain't got no home in this world anymore. The problem for Guthrie isn't that he doesn't feel comfortable in this world. The problem is he doesn't have a home. And so many people don't have homes. And so many people were out of work, and so many people were on the road. This is a period of time when tens of thousands of men left their families and went out on the road looking for work somewhere. Many of them never came back. It's a song that talks about this very powerful and endemic uprootedness that was a characteristic of this period, particularly among these working class people from the Dust Bowl.
I ain't got no home, I'm just a rambling round. I work when I can get it, and I roam from town to town. The police make it hard wherever I may go. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Anymore. I was farming shares, always we was poor. The debts they were so many, my pay wouldn't go around. The drought had got my crops, the bankers got my farm. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Anymore. I worked in your fields, and I worked on your farm, and I've been working, mister, since the day that I was born. 6 children I have raised, they're scattered all around. And my darling wife, to heaven she is gone. She died of the fever on the cabin floor. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Anymore. Just like me. Now as I look around, it's mighty plain to see. It's a wide, wicked world. It's a funny place to be. The gambling man is rich while the working man is poor. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. Anymore.
That's the kind of stuff I know how to do.
That is classic.
Say, when's the last time anybody went down and took a nice walk by the LA River lately? 50 years ago, okay. Well, there was a time, when the river wasn't made out of concrete and actually ran. And during that period of time, a lot of the people that came from the Dust Bowl states lived alongside the river because they could live there. There was water there. It was free. They didn't have to pay any rent. and they would set up little shacks and little lean-tos and tents, and they would live. And there were thousands of them living along the river. So when there was a big flood, when there was a big rainstorm and a huge flood on New Year's Eve in 1933, there were the banks, the water went over the banks, they swept away everybody's houses, many people were swept away, and it was a big disaster. These sorts of problems with the river were used as kind of the justification, in part, for the taming of the river by putting the river in concrete, which now, as you'll know if you read the papers, there's interest in trying to open up the river and relocate the river, restore the river to the way it was. And whether that'll ever happen or not, we don't know. But we do have a song that Guthrie wrote called The Los Angeles New Year's Flood. My friends, do you remember on that fatal New Year's night, the lights of old Los Angeles were flickering oh so bright. When the crowd burst hit the mountain, swept away our homes, 100 souls were taken by that fatal New Year's flood. While we were celebrating Happy New Year's Eve, we knew not that in the morning that 1,000 souls would grieve. The waters filled the canyon, down the mountain rolled the wild Los Angeles River in that fatal New Year's flood. The little towns of Montrose, Glendale, and Burbank too, from Flint Ridge to Tujunga, along the mountain blue, they all were struck like lightning, and down the mountain rolled the wild Los Angeles River in that fatal New Year's flood. The highways were blockaded, the bridges were all down, our homes were swept and scattered, and the flood kept rolling down. So bow your head in silence and thank the Lord above if you were not made homeless by that fatal New Year's flood.
So here again, the songs, the radio songs, the songs that Guthrie wrote for the station to perform live on the station, the songs that Guthrie wrote to reach out to this population of Dust Bowl refugees, songs that talked about the kinds of things they were concerned about, the problems they faced in the big city, the problem of flooding if you lived alongside of the river, the problem of not really having a place to live, the political problem of the New Deal not really developing to its fullest, the problem of police at the border not letting people in. All these sorts of things which were part of daily conversation and part of the difficulties of living in daily life were captured in these songs, and I think captured really well. Captured with a language that listeners understood, the way that Guthrie wrote. His relatively simple language, simple but beautifully done, beautifully crafted language in many cases, but his language that spoke to those people in terms that they could really understand. And I think this is why this LA period is so important for Guthrie's formation. You know, this is where we really see a Guthrie developing both his political understanding and his musical understanding, his songwriting abilities, his ability to convey, to reach out to an audience and to kind of capture them. It's in this LA period of the late 1930s that this is really developed.
These issues that were important in the 1930s are issues that are still with us today in a different form. And I think that's one of the great things about Guthrie, is that his music continues to resonate even though he's long gone.